James is going to come back in. We are streaming.
1 minute. Hold on, the door's still open. Yep.
Phil, can you...
30 seconds.
Door is closed. Auto cue's ready.
And get the side one as well.
Side doors. Side doors.
And,
It is.
yeah.
Well, club series has been done.
Yeah.
Just doing
So this is the Victorian Championship.
state title.
State title.
20 seconds.
Welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane, whether you're watching us live via the In Pit Lane YouTube channel or watching us on Channel 31 Melbourne and Geelong on Wednesday nights at 9:30. Now, coming up a little bit later on the program, Superkarts. What are Superkarts? We've had Superkarts on a number of times over the years. Are they a part of the Marvel universe or DC? Who knows? We'll find out when we're joined by our special guest from the Victorian Superkart Club. Here's Rolf Grieve, because this weekend down at Phillip Island is the final round of the Victorian State Championship for the Superkarts. Also coming up a little bit later on, we're going to Bryant Park, just outside of your lawn, for the Australian Hillclimb Championship and a whole lot more. We've also got a great band tonight, the Odd Souls, and they're going to take us out, and you're going to love them a little bit later on in the program as well. But right now, let's find out what's been happening around the world of local and international motorsport. Let's check out the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. Well, the artists formerly known as V8 Supercars made their annual pilgrimage across the Tasman last weekend for the Auckland Super Sprint event for the Jason Richards Trophy. The trophy celebrates the career and life of the popular New Zealand driver who passed away in 2011 after a long and very public battle against a rare form of cancer. In its short history, the trophy has never been won by a Kiwi driver, but that changed last Sunday in an emotional local win. An emotional Shane Van Gisbergen has become the first New Zealand driver to win the Jason Richards Trophy after taking a second place in the final race of the weekend at the Pukekohe Raceway just outside Auckland. Van Gisbergen's overall win gives the popular Kiwi a not inconsiderable 190-point lead over teammate and Race 3 winner Jamie Whincup going into the final round at Homebush in Sydney next month. Van Gisbergen took the win despite an altercation with his teammate in the weekend's third race that saw him recover to finish in third. But a drive-through penalty for Whincup for the incident saw him finish back in 25th place, almost certainly handing the title to his teammate. Mark Winterbottom was second overall after a win in race 3, with Whincup salvaging third after his final race win. Van Gisbergen's win in the event was clearly a very special moment for the local driver.
Yeah, that's pretty special to win that trophy. I'm pretty stoked, but thanks everyone out here. The support's been awesome, and to get the JR trophy, you know, everyone loved him. He's such an awesome guy, and to finally win that as a Kiwi, I'm over the moon, so thank you.
Well, a smaller than expected crowd at the New Zealand circuit has seen local officials question the value of the event. Auckland Tourism Events and Economic Development CEO Brett O'Reilly says that he'll need to crunch the numbers before committing to keeping the Supercars in New Zealand beyond 2018 when the contract runs out. Mr O'Reilly said that he was a bit disappointed with the crowd numbers. He was concerned about the possible effect on the crowd by the Hampton Downs 101 for the Australian GT Championship that was run the week before. But Supercars Australia boss James Warburton said that the crowd was only slightly down from last year. The attendance over the 3 days was still a very healthy 106,753 people, which makes the meeting still New Zealand's largest sporting event. Well, a slightly smaller turnout last weekend at Sandown for the 25th annual Historic Sandown meeting. Open wheelers were the main attraction with the Formula Junior World Challenge and, of course, the popular Formula 5000s for the Trans-Tasman Trophy Series. And in that event, it was a young Australian that dominated the weekend. Another impressive entry list of classic cars attracted a big crowd to celebrate 25 years of the Victorian Historic Racing Register's annual Historic Sandown. Once again, a highlight of the meeting was the thundering Formula 5000s, with cars from Australia, New Zealand and England on hand to entertain the crowd. New South Wales driver Tom Tweedy was in a class of his own, dominating the weekend, the second round of the Tasman Cup Revival Series. Tweedy started from pole in his ex-team VDS Chevron B24 and comfortably won all 3 races after his main opposition, Tim Berryman, was forced to come from behind after a DNF in the first race. Berryman and his ex-Alan Jones Theodore Lola failed to finish the first race after contact with the Matic A50 of Melbourne driver Brian Sala. Auckland's Grant Martin was the best of the visiting Kiwis in his Talon, sandwiched between the Lolas of local drivers Andrew Robson and Darcy Russell. English driver Greg Thornton had a mixed weekend. He was second in Saturday's first race, but gearbox problems put him out of races 2 and 3. Things went much better for Thornton when he swapped his Formula 5000 Chevron for a much smaller Lotus 22 to take the win in the Formula Junior World Challenge. Thornton won all 3 races. Western Australian Martin Bullock in a Lotus 27 was second, ahead of the Elva 300 of Christopher Drake. In the Groups P, Q&R Racing and Sports Cars, it was the Chevron of Simon Gardner who took the win over Andrew Makin's March 73B and Colin Haste in the Lola. And another huge field of classic sports cars in Group S, with Porsche driver Jeff Morgan and the big Corvette of Paul Blakey sharing the wins.
JJ350's up there. So Hanson in the number 51 machine.
The international scene's winding down with several major championships either over or in their final rounds. NASCAR's convoluted and confusing championship chase continued in Texas, while in China, Mark Webber celebrated his penultimate championship race with a victory in the Shanghai 6 Hours. And it's that race that leads off this week's very short In Pit Lane International Wrap. Webber, with Brendan Hartley and Timo Bernhard, took the win after leading for most of the race. The Porsche 919 led home another strong showing from Toyota, who took the next 2 steps on the podium. It wasn't a good weekend for Audi in their penultimate WEC event, with the factory cars coming together early in the race. Signatech Alpine wrapped up the LMP2 championship, but it was the G-Drive team that took the race win. It was a 1-2 for Ford in GTE Pro, while the number 98 Aston Martin took out GTE AM. The win to the number 1 Porsche has also wrapped up the manufacturer's title with 1 round remaining in Bahrain. Carl Edwards has won the rain-delayed NASCAR Sprint Cup race at Texas Motor Speedway to take the 2nd spot in the confusing NASCAR Championship chase. Heavy rain caused chaos as the race finally got underway some 6 hours late. Joey Logano led early but was caught out when Martin Truex Jr. and Edwards decided to pit under green flag conditions. A late race caution after Austin Dillon, Casey Mears and Brian Scott all crashed saw Edwards take the lead on the restart. And when the rain reappeared, Edwards was still in front and declared the winner to secure a place at the Homestead Championship Showdown beside Jimmy Johnson in the only championship fight that's even more confusing than the US presidential elections. We'll have more news coming up a little bit later on in the show, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by our special guest, Rolf Grieve, from the Victorian Superkart Club about this week's big event down at Phillip Island. Stay tuned. You're watching In Pit Lane. We'll be right back after this.
We're going straight into
Straight into it. Okay, yep. Give us a... Oh, we're back. Apparently we're back.
countdown.
Peter's going to count us down now for our YouTube people. People on Channel 31 don't see this. This is the bonus of watching the YouTube channel. It's the bonus of me talking over the top of Peter as he's trying desperately to give me a countdown.
4,
I'll shut up now.
3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, coming up this week down at the Phillip Island circuit are the Superkarts. They're part of the Piarc Sprint meeting down there, and it's the final round of the Victorian Championship. Not only is it the final round of the Victorian Championship for this year, it's also the celebration of 40 years of Superkarts in the Victorian Superkart Club. To find out about the event and to find out about the club and what are Superkarts, in fact, joining us is Rolf Grieve. Rolf, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Thanks for having us back in. It's been number of years since we were in.
It has been a while now. For people who haven't seen, I think most people viewing would know what a supercard is. But for those who haven't seen, you know, what is it about supercars that makes them super?
Well, basically, the supercars evolved from the early days of motorcycle engines being fitted to go-karts, in having a gearbox and things. So they're a little bit like the current KZ series of karts that are getting around on sprint circuits. But they've certainly developed over the last 40 years into a very specialist machine where you've got engines by DEA and Rotax and BRM, and they are really fine-tuned, totally built, purpose-built karts that go quick.
When you say they go quick, the top 250 internationals at Phillip Island this weekend, what sort of lap times will they be doing, perhaps compared with something like a V8 supercar, for instance?
Well, looking at the weather that's forecast for the weekend, it's not brilliant, but I think the lap record for Phillip Island at the moment is about a 1:28. We have had data from karts from the GPS units, and they now topping out consistently over the 250 kilometre an hour mark going into turn one.
And that's it. I think we years ago when we used to cover the supercarts, we sort of timed them pretty much between the time they get to what the corner unit, or formerly known as Honda, right through to the top of Lukey Heights. There's pretty much nothing that is as quick as a supercar. You're pretty much flat out all the way, aren't you?
Well, yeah, pretty much so. In the 250s, they probably slow a little bit more, but main braking area is into Honda and Lukey Heights, of course. And I was looking at some YouTube footage this afternoon just to bring myself up to speed again, and even our stock Honda 125 karts are going through MG at 85 kilometres an hour. So they're still cornering at a fair rate of knots.
The thing that freaks out a lot of people when they see them for the first time is the fact that these things are seriously quick, but of course there's no roll cages, there's no protection. I mean, is it a dangerous category?
Look, all motorsport has got its dangers, and a lot of people do remark to us about superkarting not having any belts and not having any crash zones or anything like that. And I mean, it is a go-kart, and it's akin to riding a motorbike and putting a seatbelt on that. You know, it's just as useful as the ashtray. You know, you're better off getting away from the kart if it goes bad.
Now, 40 years of the Victorian Superkart Club.
Yep.
I mean, how long have you been with the club?
20 years.
So you basically started when the show started.
Yeah, in fact, it was, I think, 14 years ago that we're in here talking about our 2002 Nationals.
That's correct, yes, and we covered that, I think,
Yeah.
from memory. So how have the karts developed? Because if you look at them, they don't look radically different from the way they used to, but obviously they're a lot quicker and a lot more attention to detail in terms of aerodynamics and that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you go back to the early years, and certainly if you go to our Facebook page, which is Victorian Superkart Club, you'll see some old photos from the old days. And I mean, they do look an awful lot different. They were very agricultural back then. They were often motorcycle motors just bolted onto a go-kart frame. But now where you've got, you know, Andersons and Stockmans that are building purpose-built chassis where, you know, the adjustments they have in there and everything else is just miles apart from what it was. And even the basic non-gearbox class kart, which is our starter class, they're now moving away from the sprint kart chassis and going to the new Evo chassis. So everything's being dialed in for long circuit racing.
So where do you see supercars as fitting into the motorsport landscape? Because it's sort of in that twilight zone. It's a bit like I sort of compare it with sidecars in motorcycle racing. That, you know, they're not in that very big and popular sprint kart realm, and they're not totally in the world of motorsport. Do you feel you sort of exist in this little twilight zone?
Yeah, look, we've got to be motorsport's best kept secret, and certainly we've had quite a few big names over the years that have gone through superkarting. Nick Percat was a supercarter. There's Jason Ackermanis has come through and run. Apparently he's coming back for another run next year. The footy season's over. But yeah, we're sort of in that in-between twilight zone, like you say. But we're now looking towards next year developing a mid-class non-gearbox class, because even those classes are developing with Evo engines and things like that. So that we know that there's a lot of go-karts out there that are just hanging on the wall of sheds doing nothing because they can't compete with the new motors. So we're bringing in a class for the standard Rotax non-gearbox kart.
You have, apart from the Victorian state title, which we'll see this weekend, there's also quite a healthy national scene with the Shannons Nationals. What is the situation for that next year? Will you be back with the Shannons Nationals? Do you know?
I have no idea what Superkarting Australia's got planned for that. There's a lot of talk, but it's early days yet. We're only hearing rumours. There is talk of them, you know, racing at Queensland Raceway and doing a few different things. Who knows? Everyone's trying to get their calendars together at the moment, and we're no different to that. And we have to hinge a little bit on what's going on in that series as well.
So if anybody's out there and they're thinking that they'd like to get involved with supercars, I mean, let's face it, I think you've got to be either brave, mad, or a combination of both to do it. But certainly in terms of bang for your buck, in terms of outright speed, there's probably not better value for money circuit racing going around.
Absolutely. I mean, especially true for the budget conscious to stick with the non-gearbox classes. And if you've got money to burn, then the 250's for you, and you will be throwing money at it to go quick. But that's the same with all motorsport. If you want to go fast, you're paying the bucks.
So where do people go to find out more?
Well, go to our website, www.superkartsvictoria.com, and you'll find all the contacts and links from there, or Superkarts Victoria or the Victorian Superkart Club on a Facebook page.
Well, Rolf, I'm hoping that the weather is going to be good on the weekend, because let's face it, I mean, it's, you know, Phillip Island can get pretty wild down there, and in the rain in a supercart, an interesting entertainment in any way.
Yeah, you don't see too much, and I know there's a couple of guys that'll be doing the rain dance out there tonight and hoping for a wet weekend.
Well, either way, we'll see you down there on the weekend, but for now, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Thanks again.
And when we come back, speaking of the weird and wonderful world of motorsport, we're going to take you to the Australian Hillclimb Championship at Bryant Park. Also, live music from our guest, Odd Souls. We'll be back. You're watching In Pit Lane. Don't go away. I had one of those this morning. Pete had one of those this morning too. Is it? Sorry. Is it Old Souls? Odd. It is odd. Yeah. Yep. Odd. They're not ready. They're not ready just yet. I don't know. I'm assuming we're streaming at the moment. If we are, just a reminder for you. Thank you for all the support, all the people who are now moved over and watching us on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Remember that if you've been watching on Channel 31, that in a few weeks' time, Channel 31 will be taken off the air, and the only way you're going to be able to see In Pit Lane or any of the shows that we have on here at RMI TV will be via our various YouTube channels. So thank you for those. And remember, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, please subscribe. Go down there, because it'll make it easier for you to keep in touch whenever we have a new program. Remember, we are live about 9 o'clock every Tuesday night here for the next few weeks. We're coming back for our Channel 31 people in
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Just a reminder that in a few weeks' time, unfortunately, it will be the last edition of In Pit Lane on Channel 31 free to air. As you know, Channel 31 is being taken off air by the Australian government. And if you want to continue watching In Pit Lane, the best way to do that is via our YouTube channel. Just go to our YouTube channel. There it is. You can check us out and you can watch us live. And we're not 100% sure what's happening for next year, but I can tell you at the end of the year, we've got some very exciting news of a major event coming up. I can't tell you too much yet, but hopefully next week we'll be able to give you those details. Now, 2 weeks ago, speaking of major events, Bryant Park, just out of Yallourn, played host to the 2016 Australian Hillclimb Championships. There were entries from all over Australia on hand to tackle the challenging course. Unfortunately for us, somebody took the wrong camera to the circuit. But as they say, when life hands you lemons, use your iPhone instead. This is the car that's taken Malcolm Osler to his third consecutive victory in the Australian Hillclimb Championships. Held at the Bryant Park Hillclimb just outside Yallourn, Osler led home local driver Brett Hayward with Greg Ackland in third place. Hill climbing is one of the last bastions of true backyard engineering innovation, leading to the creation of unique cars like the Martin MRA 16, built by Melbourne's Gary Martin.
Yes, the car is a 1300 series Formula Libra, which is a chrome moly chassis, which only weighs about 35 kilograms. And it's a glass-bodied, aluminium front, glass-nosed, aluminium wings. They're all aircraft-grade aluminium, and it's a 1300 Hayabusa, 220 horsepower, and the car totals in at 318 kilograms.
There's lots of aerodynamics on the car.
Yes, yeah.
Where did the design come from?
A lot of homework, a lot of study and trial and error. I've trialled it on another car that we've beat up and crashed and adjusted and stretched and played with aero, and eventually got all of the componentry in the right place, all the geometry in the right place, and the wings in the right setting. And then we duplicated all those settings into a good solid car. So there was a fair bit of work in terms of the way that how the air flows in underneath the car, and the main philosophy was to get the splitter at the back, or get the diffuser at the back, I should say, to come out as wide and curl around the back of the wheels to pick all the low pressure up. Also through the front centre of the ring, instead of putting a wing in it, we put what's called a parabola, or a parabola, which is just a neutral wing, and it comes under the front, and it's designed to use that as a splitter like on the front of the car. So it pushes down on a 500mm square plate and splits the air out, shoots it out over the car. And the faster I drive it, the faster it goes. So I've gone down the hill and it's taken the lap record out by 8/10 in its third run.
So is that a part of the appeal of hill climb racing, that you've still got that sort of flexibility that you don't have in circuit racing anymore?
The fantastic thing about Formula Libre is the word itself. The word is a French word which means freedom. That's my understanding of Formula Libre. And basically they say don't make a wing any higher than 900. You can bring it out from, it can be 2 suburbs wide if you want it that wide. There's no other restrictions other than you can't have any mechanical side skirts. You can have side skirts, and if they touch the ground, they touch the ground, but they can't be mechanical. And that's the only thing. So the rest of it is all about making the car as slippery as you can and try to gob up as much air as you can and use it. And that's the reason why on this car, I've gone to a body on the back of it. And if you look at the back where the exhausts come out, the exhausts come out to heat the air up, to place the warm air underneath the centre part of the back of the wing. And as the cold air comes over and it shrinks the cold air, it'll drop the pressure off and pull the car down. So that's the theory behind it. But the faster I drive the car, the faster it goes, and it sticks and sticks and sticks. So that's what it's doing.
Unfortunately, the championships did clash with a state race meeting at Phillip Island, and publicity for the event was pretty much non-existent. But if you want to check out hill climbing for yourself, the good news is that the next major event will be held as part of the Geelong Revival in late November. And in Formula One news, absolutely nothing of any excitement has happened at all. So with that, we'll sign off for this week's edition of In Pit Lane, and taking us out tonight is the band Odd Souls. You might have heard of them on Triple J or seen them busking in the Burke Street Mall here in Melbourne. They've just released their new EP, Visuals, which is available on Bandcamp. So check that out as well. But tonight they're right here performing for us. So until next week, when we'll be previewing the big Wayne Rowe Memorial Superstock meeting at Calder, from all of us here at In Pit Lane, it's good night, and here's Odd Souls with Images.
They're floating through our minds. They taste and they speak away, drifting out of time. What's that I see? They're staring back at me. I'm shaking in the knees, and it still seems I'm not used to the sea. Too many pictures floating around me. There must somebody to what is that I see? I might have known, I may also believe the beating of my heart increasing speed. These lights superimposed, I don't know where to go. I'm still shaking in the knees, and it still seems I'm unmystified by the sea. Too many pictures are floating over me. There must be more to every sound. And what is that I see? Am I lost in mind, lost the sea? Too many people are walking